Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight's Tuesday, January 20th, and we are in regular session where we'll have communications and then be reading a series of ordinances and also a one-reading resolution. We'll establish the quorum, and I see that we have all members present, and I would like to welcome new council member at large, Mike Canterbury, who was sworn in a few moments ago. And so we now have a full complement, and thank you for being willing to serve.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah. And I will also like to make another announcement that because I've moved into the president position and there was a vacancy on the Finance and Personnel Committee, Council Member Jeff Reisner has agreed to serve as chair of the Finance and Personnel Committee. So thank you, Council Member Reisner, for being willing to take this on. And I believe that that is all. I have one other welcome that I'd like to make, and that's Boy Scout Troop number 71 that's here with us tonight. So we'll try and explain things. We'll also be available for a few moments after the council meeting if you have additional questions you'd like to ask as you're working on your merit badge and may need additional information. But thank you for your service to the community, too, because I know you do a lot of volunteer efforts, and it really does make a difference. And I pointed this out once before when there was another Boy Scout troop, and there may be other Boy Scouts who are here, but I know that our law director, Pat Lang, began some of his early work in the community serving in the Boy Scout troop. So it's a great beginning. Okay. Communications, several that I have, and then several from several other council members and our other elected officials. One of them is a letter that we have from Congressperson Louise Slaughter, the Congressperson of the United States, who appreciated our support of the Preservation of Antibiotics for Medical Treatment Act, and that's known as the PAMTA Act. And Council did pass a resolution in support of that. Bill, the Preservation of Antibiotics for Medical Treatment. And we are also in receipt of a Liquor Control Board notice that there is a change from the new market at 726 East State Street that's changing a corporate name to Jerry's Panda Supermarket at 726 East State Street. And we have responses. If there's any response desired, it needs to be received no later than February 5th, 2015. And then communications from other council members, please. Yes, Council Member Butler.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Just a friendly reminder that tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., the Community Center will be hosting a discussion facilitated by Branstetter Carroll Architect and Planning regarding the new pool or ideas proposed for the pool. So right now it's a clean slate, empty slate. Nothing's been determined or decided. So public input is welcome. That's the whole point of the meeting. So tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the Community Center. Thank you.
Okay. Other council members? Other announcements? Yes, Council Member Fall.
There's been an issue that has been brought up to members of City Council and City Administration concerning the President Street Academic Center, which is on campus. The Athens Historic Preservation Commission has been meeting with the OU representatives. There's plans to potentially tear down this building to expand the business center. And the commission is working on a letter to voice our concern and to voice that we prefer to rehabilitate an older building that's within our city. If people are interested in more information about it, they can contact Paul Logue, who is our city planner.
Thank you. Communications from any other council members? And communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil.
Nothing earth-shaking, I don't think. They wants to keep you on track, of course, that there's no trash and recycling delay this week. Considering we had some markets in there yesterday. Other ones, of course, the Christmas trees are still being picked up, so get those done. The third thing is that there was a meeting today about Union Street with the business owners as well as the property owners at Union Street fire area. USDA presented some of their possibilities of grants. Some of them do not fit. Some of them sound like they might take a little bit longer. It's well attended. There's some possibilities of actually trying to secure money through the Economic Development Council to initiate a less restrictive revolving loan fund. The Economic Development Council, which I believe you've got your annual report right there, administers both the county and the city's revolving loan funds. Of course, there's always stipulations on that in terms of return of employment, how many people per loan. But it sounds like from the USDA, there's actually a possibility of getting another set of grant money that would go to a nonprofit administrating a loan revolving loan fund with less restrictions and probably better interest rates. We also have a historic preservation presentation from the state, as well as discussing both federal and state tax credits. Some were received, I think it was received well. Whether they act on it or not is another opportunity. It depends on the property owners. Some were interested, some did not fit that well. So still in process. Any questions?
I appreciate the update. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. And again, I think there's a lot of things that don't fit exactly, and that's the question. And then there's always the timeline. Many of them want to get started as soon as possible. And some are, the conversation with the deadline for this application is March, and the results from some of the competitive, grants and loans would be June, and they're saying that's way too long to wait. So again, it comes down to trying to match the timing. Some of the grants would not fit us because we have a higher population. I think that some of them fell out of the mix at 20,000, population 20,000, we're 24 and change. So some would fit regardless and are less competitive and more competitive. So the presentation, it was less than about an hour of questions dispersed between. I think there's some good potentials there, but again, it comes down to what the property owners want and how fast they can do it.
I did have one other question, which is, I know that a lot of people are commenting about when is the street going to be open? So a lot of this does depend with the city working with the owners in terms of safety issues.
Yes.
Correct? So I know that it has been, sidewalks not open, streets one lane.
The biggest factor is safety. At this point, the thrust is to actually do the historic preservation. You want to save the facades if possible, keep them up. Next question is make sure they're stable enough that you can actually have somebody walking that sidewalk. That side is needed. It's highly unlikely until we either tear it down or start shoring it up and actually start the construction phase that you have it open to all lanes and all sidewalks. At least, everything I've been hearing is that, again, we want to err on the side of safety. Conceptually, you could do a pretty heavy-duty structure and scaffolding and a shelter, but that's probably beyond what we can do at this point until we find out what needs to be done.
Okay. Law Director Lang.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick reminder that the next regular session of council will be my last as law director, so if any members have issues or questions they'd like me specifically to weigh in on, clock's ticking.
You may be very busy this week.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your years of service, and best of luck, which I know you won't need luck, but best of wishes from all of us in your new endeavors. Okay, we now have ordinances for first reading, and the first one is Ordinance 01-15. This is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 2 replacement buses and storage building for the Athens transit system.
Thank you, Madam President. This is our first reading for this ordinance. We have been in discussion over the last couple months about purchasing 2 new buses. We work with HAPCAP on our bus service. And just to remind people a little bit here what the dollars are. So we are purchasing 2 replacement buses. The total cost is $131,325. And the city's local share is and that will be taken out of the TC 500 fund, Transportation Assistance Fund.
And, yes. Okay, any other comments or information? Mayor Weil.
Again, we appropriate the money for that. We have the certified resources for that. The question, of course, is do we want to hamstring ourselves with the total amount going into that? I had a conversation earlier last week with Michael Lockman of HAPCAP. He had suggested a possible, rather than us taking a loan on it, because that would be the case that we'd have to think about, that they would front the money for the purchase of the 2 buses, and then we would reimburse them. I suspect he was waiting to get a bounce back from ODOT, whether this is permissible. The conversation I had with him implied that it was, but I want to see it all in writing. At that point, I would suggest we probably need to amend the whereases to reflect that process at the next reading, if I get that word on it. Again, this should follow through all 3 readings, just to do that, to make sure everything's lined up. One of the pushes for doing this, of course, is that the last bus we ordered took about 6 months to actually receive. We bought it, they put together, and then almost 6 months later it shows up. So I think that's why he wants to get a jump on this, so we have the buses in replacement and ready to go. So as I say, there's no reason to expedite this, but just be aware there may be cause or a reason to amend portions of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I noticed you just said about the buses,
Yeah.
and that one didn't come in until 6 months. Now, in the specs, are they spec'ing these out that there's a certain time and date that these have to be delivered, or?
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think
And if
that
there
we
is
just
some
order it.
penalties put into that?
We could do that, I imagine. Most of the time, we just order them and say, part of it is just building it, depending on the pieces and what kind of, everything from what kind of springs we want on it and, the bells and whistles. And then there's also some downtime in terms of putting a labeling on the wraps on, the bike racks, things like that. So that adds to it as we add the customization on it. As far as I know, we've never put a fire under them. They usually tell us how long it takes, and it seems to take that long, which is surprising, but that's the way it is. They're like transit buses.
So not unlike the fire trucks.
Well, the fire truck, yeah, is
And
built from scratch.
take a long time, but certainly worth, and maybe asking the question, and certainly if HAPCAP as the administrating agency would be willing to front the money, it would save us borrowing the money, which would be grand, easier for the city. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other comments or discussion? Yes, Member Reisner.
Yes, if ODOT doesn't come through with the money, then we'll be forced to go to the bank and borrow. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Probably. The concept there, we may have the certified resources, we may have appropriated, but just like your checkbook, you could actually make a budget, and the auditor, heck, would say this repeatedly, the money comes in over time. So the idea is saying, okay, we're going to throw that cash out there. We don't have the ready cash. We know we're going to get that for the year, but and that's the issue that the last bus we went through last bus is if we take out the loan, who pays the interest? And it's not a lot because we usually get good rates, but at the same time, how that shakes out. So I think his take on it is he wants to get this moving as fast as possible. If he's got the pocket change to do it, and everybody's agreeable with it, in particular
Right.
ODOT, I'd say go with it.
Thank you for the comments. We'll move on to ordinance 02-15. And this is an ordinance declaring a rural transit bus no longer needed for a municipal purpose, and it's introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. This ordinance we did discuss specifically last week, and basically we need to put a bus to rest. We are buying 2 more buses, and so that's what this ordinance does. And it's been looked into. The current mileage is 176,000 miles, and it's served its useful life. And so that's what this ordinance, and I believe we'll have 3 full readings.
As I'm seeing in the text, it says by donation to other governmental agencies or nonprofits, eBay auctions, sealed bids, or salvage value. Mayor Weil.
Yes, this bus is actually the one that we're retiring here. Is the one we just replaced, got this December, early January, late December. The mileage struck me as very low considering, but the discussion I've had with Mr. Lockman is that this has a lot of well-worn miles on it. I said, well, can we, I I told him about the various ways of getting rid of it, including giving it to a governmental agency as a nonprofit. He said he would advise against that, which is interesting enough, but obviously it's in pretty bad shape.
Well, our mechanics did review it and look over it, and they were pretty concerned. And you figure a bus, it's 6 years old, it was bought in 2008, and all the stopping and going and short miles is very difficult on a vehicle.
And this is, it's 176,000 miles purely city driving, all stop and go. And
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 03-15, and this is an ordinance amending the 2015 appropriation ordinance and introduced by Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a very detailed ordinance. I kind of want to just start with the fact that, every year at the beginning of the year, when we put into place the appropriations ordinance, there's always a lot of adjustments that take place when it comes to our ordinance, especially at the beginning of the year. That's basically what we're talking about within this ordinance. So I'm going to abbreviate a lot of what's in here and basically talk about the major sections. Section number 1 is basically talking about decreases in several account lines that would more accurately reflect the 2015 planned expenditures. Section 2 is the same in that instead it's increasing several different lines, account lines, to better reflect the planned expenditures. Section 3 is increasing appropriations to unappropriated balances within budget lines. And then finally, Section 4 is one in which the medical fund, which is 866-881, TC 300, decreasing it by $500,000 in total appropriations in order to balance against the revenues that are coming in for the individual account lines that we're receiving these funds from. I don't know that we're going to have to suspend on this one. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I believe Order to Heck wanted it suspended, but at least the last meeting we had.
But not tonight.
What?
But not tonight. First reading suspension, or was it?
I could ask her, but she's not here.
I think it was tonight.
Oh,
because
therefore.
They wanted it in place by the end of the month.
Thank you. So what I would like to do is make a motion to suspend ordinance 0315.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules for the reading of ordinance 03-15.
Thank you. I've explained what this is for, so therefore I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance.
No, first you have to move to suspend. Get a
Oh,
vote.
sorry.
We had to vote on it.
All those in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, we have suspended the rules.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 03-15. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mayor Weil, yes.
Suspension of the rule may be speeded up quite a bit, I'm sure. I'll probably sit on this a little bit because I need some more information on how it functions. I've seen some discrepancies in the transfers in medical, just by comparing the number of staffing versus the dollar amount. And I'm waiting some information from the auditor at this point. So until I get the information, I'll probably sit on it.
Okay.
I have 10 days to do so.
That's what I wanted.
And I would explain in terms of the insurance to the audience so they're aware of it, that we are self-insured, and so this is money that we are determining a particular rate per employee that we are setting aside during the year and adjusting that amount so that our budget accurately reflects the amount that we'll be needing set aside for that. So I would urge you as soon as you have the information, if you could move forward on it, that would move us all along on this. So thank you. Thanks for that consideration.
Yes. I would hate to have to veto it or line item veto it, as I have a power to do so in appropriation bills.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the appropriation ordinance 03-15. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes 7-0. The next ordinance is 04-15, and this is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to extend the current contract to provide financial support for the operation of the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau and declaring an emergency, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. I wouldn't be glad to. As you may remember, Executive Director Paige Allost presented last week here before council and talked about the growth that we've seen in Athens County, essentially a linear growth that we've been seeing for a number of years. And among other things, she also mentioned, her need as there's been growth and revenues are increasing through the hotels, through retail sales throughout Athens, that their office is becoming stretched thin, which doesn't have anything to do with this ordinance, but again, it's important to know that there is growth going on within the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Therefore, this particular ordinance is extending the agreement, the current contract, rather, towards the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau for another 3 years, from January 1st, 2015 to December 31st of 2017.
Okay, thank you very much. And we do, we might add, have a scope of services attached to the ordinance so that council members can see all the different activities that are detailed that the organization agrees to provide in terms of the contract.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm not
Mayor
sure
Weil.
if this requires suspension or not, since the last contract sunset already, right?
Yes, it has.
Okay, I see there's an emergency clause on it, which would make it perfunctory if you,
Suspend.
for 3 readings, 2 readings, or 1 reading, whatever you choose to do. I'm sure she won't stop what she's doing.
Okay. All right, we now have a one reading resolution, and this is I'm sorry.
Taxi cabs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I was ready to move us on to resolutions, and we have another ordinance. This is ordinance 05-15, an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 11 Business Regulations, Chapter 11.08 Taxi Cabs, and this is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you, Madam President. Basically, this ordinance will amend the section regulating taxi cabs, section 11.08, 11.0801, and 11.0808. Basically, it's changing the definitions of a taxi cab, some of the requirements of when a taxi cab license needs to be obtained, and exclusions for the taxi cab license. Basically, it's closing a loophole right now that's found in our taxi cab ordinance. So it's changing definition to when you need to get a taxi cab license. It's removing the section that states the section about when you apply for a taxi cab license. The section does not apply when riders are picked up from or delivered to points outside the city. That's been a problem because many people are picked up from outside the city and transported into the city, and because we are a hub, I also think that this helps to address some of the issues concerning private individuals and transporting bodies around during certain festivals and such. And then the exclusions, it changes it to all taxi cab regulations apply to taxi cabs operating in the city within license pursuant to 11.0802. So trying to tighten it up.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay. With that, we will now move on to a one reading resolution, and this is 02-15. It's a resolution expressing council's support for marriage equality and appreciation for the work of Why Marriage Matters Ohio, and it's introduced by all council members, and I believe Councilmember Cochran will be speaking to this.
Thank you, President Nicely. This resolution is being brought forward after some discussions at the end of the year, last year, and in light of current events. So it reads, whereas Athens is an open and inclusive community that values diversity and celebrates the many contributions that the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community makes to the life of our city, and whereas Athens City Council supports full equality and protections for the LGBT community and has in the past several years expanded hate crimes protections to include LGBT people, extended health benefits to partners and dependents of city employees, and established a domestic partnership registry. And whereas, when Ohio voted in November 2004 to pass Issue 1, Athens was the only county to vote against the measure which limits marriage to man-woman and places restrictions on non-marriage types of same-sex unions. And whereas, unfortunately, even as justice and equality sweep the nation, Ohio remains among a minority of states that do not permit loving same-sex couples to marry, thereby denying them the ability to protect and provide for their families, and depriving them of many legal, economic, and social benefits of marriage. And whereas Athens City Council will continue to speak out for equality and justice as we eagerly await the day when Ohio takes its place on the right side of history. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. Athens City Council does hereby express its support for marriage equality and its appreciation for the work of Why Marriage Matters, Ohio. Thank you.
And I do have a letter to share with you, a communication from our recently retired council president, Jim Sands. And so I'll read that for you. I heard in the Columbus News that Athens City Council will be voting on a resolution supporting marriage equality. I want to enthusiastically support a positive role by all council members. My partner, David Ratliff, and I were committed partners for 42 years, married in Washington, D.C. at the Metropolitan Unitarian Church on August 9th, 2013. The ceremony was attended by friends and family members, welcoming of our commitment to each other. During our life together, David served in the U.S. Army, worked in the Pentagon and in several government offices in the District of Columbia, was my partner in our business at the Athens Flower Shop, and was a past member of the Athens Uptown Business Association, the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce, an Athens County Commissioner, an Athens Township Trustee, and chair of the Athens County Board of Elections. David died on February 20th, 2014 at Riverside Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. During that same time, I was a medical corpsman in the U.S. Navy, graduate of Ohio University, and an elementary school teacher. Also a partner in our business, the Athens Flower Shop, past member of the Athens Uptown Business Association, president of the Athens Area Chamber of Commerce, chair of the Dairy Barn, and a member and president of Athens City Council. Currently, I'm living with my sister in Columbus, Ohio, completing physical therapy and recuperating from several seizures and broken bones. I plan to return to the Athens area by early spring. Again, thank you to Athens City Council for considering this resolution. Signed, Jim Sands. Thank you, Jim. Any other comments from council members or elected officials? Okay. Yeah, yes, Councilmember
I would like to
Henderson.
share. Number one, I am overwhelmingly in support of this resolution. I'm proud that this resolution has come forward. I also want to just mention that as the father of an adult child who, if he lived in the state of Ohio, also would fall in that category to where he would not be able to live life to its fullest extent and have all the rights and privileges that the rest of us have. So again, I am just overwhelmed by the fact that this is moving forward and happy that it is.
We have a resolution that's been read, and do we have a motion to approve?
I move to adopt or to approve Resolution 02-15.
Second.
We have a motion
We
and
can all second.
almost unanimous second.
Second.
All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passes unanimously, 7-0. As our next item on the agenda, we have announcements and other business. And And do we have a motion to accept our December 2014 auditor statements?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these financial reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The motion passes. Next week, we will have committee meetings, and so I want to check with council members about which ones are needed. So, Councilmember Fall, Planning and Development.
Finance and personnel.
Councilmember Reisner, Finance and Personnel.
Transportation,
Councilmember Pappy, Transportation.
National Street Fair, and
Okay.
other things.
Should probably throw surface safety.
Okay, and for good measure, we'll put service safety in too from Councilmember Patterson. It's going to be a busy week.
All committees.
Okay. And at this point in the agenda, we have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to speak tonight? Okay, and if you will come to the podium, and we ask that you sign in, and then when you start to speak, give us your name and your address so that the audience watching TV tonight also knows who you are.
My name is Christopher Deggy. My address is 118 East Main Street in Columbus. I am the Deputy Communications Director for Why Marriage Matters Ohio, and as it turns out, I'm also an Eagle Scout. So I was in the State House today waiting for a meeting, and I saw a display that kind of looked at freedom in Ohio's history. And under it were several pieces of text, and one that really stood out to me was Article 1, Section 1 of the Bill of Rights of Ohio's Constitution. And it reads that all are, by nature, free and independent and have certain inalienable rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life and liberty. I want to thank all of you for your support, not only for the LGBT citizens of Athens and Ohio, but also for, excuse me, getting a little choked up, for the work of Why Marriage Matters Ohio. This is the second unanimous resolution passed in the entire state of Ohio. And really, thank you so much for helping us to secure the freedom to marry for all loving and committed couples, and for your work in making Athens a place where all families are welcome and respected. We're grateful for your leadership, and with your help, we will achieve the freedom to marry here in Ohio. Why Marriage Matters is a statewide public education campaign focused solely on increasing support for marriage equality. To that end, we encourage all Ohioans to talk to their family and friends about why marriage matters for all couples. We know that these conversations are the most effective way to increase support for the freedom to marry, and a real critical part of that is engaging with leaders throughout the state who will speak out in support of the freedom to marry. To date, over 100 elected officials throughout Ohio have announced their support, and we're proud that Athens has joined them to pass this resolution in support of marriage equality. Again, thank you for your long history of support for the LGBT community, and thank you for defending the inalienable rights of life and liberty. We hope that the people of Athens and all Ohioans will use this resolution as an opportunity to talk to friends and family about the freedom to marry and help people understand that every single day Ohio couples are denied the dignity and protection of marriage, they're being harmed. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that these conversations are having an impact. The majority of people in Ohio now believe that all loving and committed couples should have the freedom to marry, and support continues to grow. Last Friday, the Supreme Court agreed to hear our cases, and we will have an answer by July, which is pretty exciting. We're almost there, but we must remember that we cannot stop. We must not rest until wedding bells ring equally across the state of Ohio for all loving and committed couples. Why Marriage Matters Ohio will keep working, keep encouraging conversations, and keep changing hearts and minds until we have full marriage equality. And we're grateful to have the Athens City Council as a partner in our efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right. And Seeing that I don't think there is anybody else that's going to speak tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Okay.
Motion.
Okay. Chris will move, and
move
Councilmember
in a
Pappy
second.
second. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, nay. And the meeting's adjourned at 7:36 PM.